as a world-renowned advocate for human rights and freedom. Can you share a few words of your perspective on the individuals known as the Kansas City Three?
The double standards in the prosecution of these three Americans of Cameroonian descent has compelled me to become an advocate for their cause. Their case represents a case study of disparate treatment and selective prosecution in violation of both the U.S. law and violation of international law.
In your view, is there a disparity in treatment between the Kansas City Three, who are U.S. citizens originally from Southern Cameroons, like you have mentioned, and other groups of U.S. citizens, such as those supporting Ukrainians against Russia or Israelis against Hamas?
Most definitely. Civilians from the United States are enlisting, traveling abroad, and fighting in foreign countries, in Israel, against Palestinians, fighting in Ukraine against Russians, and they are fighting in wars in which the United States has not declared war against either Russia or the Palestinians. Now, that is in clear violation of U.S. federal law called the Neutrality Act, which is Title 18 of the United States Code, Section 959. Fundraising is taking place as we speak. Millions of dollars are being collected by U.S. citizens, civilians, and being sent abroad in Ukraine, in Israel, to help in securing military weapons to support a war effort. Now, that is precisely what the allegations are against the three United States citizens of Cameroonian descent. So it begs the question, why are these three black men, U.S. citizens of Cameroonian descent, being treated differently, while others who are white, many of them U.S. citizens, sending monies to be used for weapons in violation of U.S. law? Because the United States has not declared war against Russia, nor has it declared war against the Palestinians. So there is disparate treatment and selective prosecution of these Cameroonians. That is why I have lent my voice to point out this disparity.
Professor Hinds, in July this year, you led a letter of leading Americans and international lawyers and bar associations to the Attorney General of the United States about the disparity in treatment between the Kansas City Three and other groups of U.S. citizens. What was the letter's message to the Attorney General, and what did they call on to
Well,
do in regards to the said disparity and the case of the Kansas City Three?
in July, uh, at my request, um, lawyers and jurists from a number of about four international and national lawyers and jurist organizations, the African Bar Association, for example, having members, lawyers, and judges in 39 countries on the African continent, joined together with the International Association of Democratic Lawyers, which are lawyers and jurists from Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, and Americas. They all joined with the National Conference of Black Lawyers of the United States and Canada and the former Chief Justice of the government of Kenya. They all expressed their outrage of what is happening to the three U.S. citizens of Cameroonian descent, to the Attorney General, Merrick Garland. And expressing their concern of the selective, the disparate, and the illegal treatment of these individuals, and calling for a full investigation of why they are being prosecuted, while others, as an example that I've given, are not similarly prosecuted.
Now, there's something, it appears to be a double standard about how financial support for self defense is handled in the court of law in the US, whether it's by the Kansas City Three against the Cameroonian military or by Americans aiding those in conflict with Russia and Hamas. What are your thoughts on this double standard, specifically when it comes to self defense?
The double standards are self evident. You see this happening and being played out not in secret. If you look at the Wall Street Journal and Reuters, they have described precisely what is going on, from funds being raised to purchase tactical gear, aid also being sent to the Israeli self defense forces, especially those people who were living near Gaza. I mean, this is not something that is being done in secret. The Justice Department of the United States is quite aware of this.
In your opinion, how should the Department of Justice address the situation to resolve it correctly?
Well, I think what has been happening is that as a result of the outcry from the international legal community and the concern that are being raised by some elected officials, it calls for the Justice Department to re examine what is being done now and what has been done historically in terms of selective prosecution and the disparate treatment. This case should be reviewed by the Attorney General's office in Washington, D.C., and appropriate steps should be taken to correct this unjust and disparate prosecution.
Now, the national and international campaign to address the double standard in the United States judicial system more fairly, which included the letter from leading lawyers that you initiated. What message do you have to members of Congress, such as those on the Congressional Black Caucus, for example?
Well, I think that the Congressional Black Caucus historically have concerned themselves with the question of fairness, with the question of equality of treatment. I think that they should begin a conversation with the Justice Department on the question of disparity and put the question to them of why the disparate treatment. And if we go back over the last 50 or 60 years, you will see that the Justice Department have brought cases essentially of people of color who have supported or who have tried to assist on issues of self determination.
The last time we had an exclusive interview, you inspired a significant movement within the Southern Cameroon community that gained traction on social media, particularly on Twitter X. How has their involvement helped your current work on behalf of them? Or what further actions would you want to tell the people of Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia today to enact that can help your strategic approach in this advocacy?
I am convinced that what happens in the courtroom, to a large extent, would be influenced by what happens outside of the courtroom. If I were to make any type of recommendation to the international community, people of Southern Cameroons, it is that they should let their voices be heard in Washington, D.C. There should be a campaign, a letter writing campaign, with thousands, millions of letters directed to the Attorney General of the United States, demanding that there be equal treatment for Francis Cheney, Claude Chi, and Lamnester Langun. because I'm convinced that only as a result of mass support would the courts in the United States recognize that these individuals were not acting on their own, but they were supporting the cries for freedom from the Anglophone people of southern Cameroon.